Hi folks, Jay from Broken Arrow Archery in Nambour. I just want to have a chat to you about our great weekend Rich and I had down at the Vulture Bowman's Club. I took Rich down for his first 3D shoot and he really loved it. We had a whole group of us go down from the shop here and we dodged the rain. Had a great fun, lost a few arrows, but it was a great day out there actually, and Rich really enjoyed it, I enjoyed it. It's good to get outside and do some shooting. So, but while I was down there, a gentleman was selling this bow. And I sort of thought, it was a pretty keen price. I had a bit of a look over it, made sure that there was no real damage on it, and I got a bit excited about it, I can tell you. So I thought I'd buy it off him. But before I did, I checked it over that it hadn't been dry fired or anything like that. One way, I mean, there's no real way to tell that the bow's been dry fired, but it's always worth when you buy a second-hand bow to check the limbs. Run your hands over and feel them, get them in the light, see if there's any sign of any cracking or splintering. If that's the case, you know, limbs can cost you $100 to $200 for each of these, and there's 4 of them on there. So it's worth considering that when you buy the bow. If you have to replace the limbs, it can be an expensive cost. The other thing, whenever a bow has been dry fired, you'll generally see some sort of damage on the cams. The way these cams are built with these big openings, there's a lot of force goes through this when it's dry fired, and these curved parts of the bow here tend to get flattened out, bent in, even where these little holes are here, they'll flare out. There's a lot of stress that happens when a bow is dry fired. So if there's any sort of damage on the cams, same thing, cams can take months to get from the States for a bow. So, you know, if there's any sign of sort of damage on them, it's best to steer clear of that sort of thing. But anyway, so I checked this out. It all looks pretty good. It's fairly unmarked, the bow. It's got new strings on it, so he has shot it a bit and he's replaced the strings. And I had a bit of a chat to him about what he's done with the bow. He's been hunting a couple of times and shot a 3D for about a year with it, and then he bought a new bow. So he wanted a longer axle-to-axle bow than this one, so he bought that and decided to sell this one on. And I'm looking for a shorter axle-to-axle bow with a bit more power and speed than what I've got, so this fit the ticket. And so what I'm going to do, I've checked this bow out. First thing I noticed when I was looking at it is the timing is a tiny bit out on the cams, not very much. Most bows, when you buy them, have little indicator holes like these ones here. That string should pass right through the middle of that and also in the middle of that. If they're not in the middle and they're just off the edge, but as long as they're similarly misaligned, they're fine. But these are just slightly stepped out, so when you draw this back, the back wall will be a little bit, it'll have sort of 2 stop points, because the draw stop will come around and hit the string there and the other one won't have hit it yet. So just the little things to fix that up. The other thing was that I normally shoot about a 28.5 inch draw length, and this is 28, which is fine. I'll be able to shoot that. So a couple of things I'll do is probably put a slightly longer D-loop on there, but there's a lot of twists in this string, which I can take a couple of those out, will just give me a little bit more draw length. You know, it might only be an 1/8 or something like that, but it'll all help. So that's a couple of things I'm going to do right now. I'm going to put in the press. I'm just going to take a couple of twists out of the main string, and I'll just put a twist or take a twist out of one of the cables so that I can get the timing right. Right. 2 twists there. Check that on the side, back on. Yep. Right, so I just want to have a look. That one's pretty much right. Not too far out, so that one needs to come around more. So I might take a twist out of this one. This out. I'll take this out of this one.
Alright, talk as you do it, so you got it. So.
Yeah, alright, so what is that? That's the bottom cam. The bottom cam down here just needs to come around a little more anti-clockwise to bring it back. So I'm just going to take a half a twist, maybe one full twist. We'll try one full twist out of the top of here. I'll put that back on the post. let the pressure back on. So one twist. So you can either, like this cam here needed to rotate around anti-clockwise, so to do that I've got to make this cable shorter, so I've got to put twists on it, or I've got to take twists off this one. So what I'm doing, these cables have got heaps of twists in them already, so I'd rather take some out of this one, which means that this one rotates the opposite way, which will line them both up. But it's a bit fiddly sometimes. You got to in and out of the press and make sure that they're all. It's late. Oh, that's pretty good. I'm happy with that. So I've just the top of the strings level with the top of that hole. You probably can just see a little bit of air through there. And similarly on this one. Probably a tiny bit, but half a turn's going to be too much, so that's going to be pretty close. Alright, so that's done. So now what I'm going to do is pop a peep in it. Going to take a little bit of load off the main string, so I can feed the peep in. Now this, whenever you buy a new bow, they generally have this bit of a strand in between the cables. That's just separating. This is a 2-colour string, so that's separating the brown from the green here, and that's, you know, to keep it looking nice. You put your peep right in the middle of there. But what happens is that might not necessarily be the right place for peep alignment in relation to where the D-loop is. Alright, so what I'm going to do here is, this is my other bow that's already set, the peep height set for me. I'm just going to get a measurement so I can set this peep in pretty close to the right point. So I'm just going to measure off the top of the D-loop to the centre of that peep, pretty much where the knot's tied around. So you're talking about maybe 152 mil. That's somewhere near the money. I can fine tune that later on, but that's pretty close. So what I'm going to do is, I did say I was going to put a longer D-loop on it, but I'll try this first because I've not drawn this bow back yet. I'll tie the peep in top and bottom, test it all out, and once I've decided on the peep height, then I'll tie the peep in itself.